Room 13. The nurse who fed on pain. The fluorescent lights flickered at 3:47 a.m. when Sarah first heard the screaming. It wasn't normal hospital screaming. This was different. This was the sound of absolute agony, vibrating through the walls themselves. Then, suddenly, it stopped. Complete silence. The kind that feels like a held breath. Sarah had been a nurse for 9 days at St. Helena's Hospital. The building was old, Gothic, swallowing light into its dark stone. She should have known better, should have turned around. But the screaming had come from past room 12, and when she looked down the hallway, she saw something impossible. A door marked with the number 13. Before we descend into this nightmare, do me a favor. Drop a comment right now telling me what city you're watching from. Are you safe in bed somewhere, alone on a night shift? Let me know, because after this story, you might want to know others are out there with you. Trust me. Now let me tell you about Sarah Chen and the night she discovered that some hungers are darker than we can imagine. This is about room 13 and the nurse who learned to feed on pain itself. Sarah approached the door slowly. Room 13 shouldn't exist. The hallway was supposed to end at room 12. But there it was, solid and real. From inside came whimpering, someone crying softly. Her nursing training kicked in. Someone needed help. She had to respond. The handle was ice cold, drawing warmth from her palm. She turned it. The room beyond smelled wrong. Not antiseptic. This was older. Rust and formaldehyde, and something organic that made her stomach turn. When she found the light switch, Sarah wished she'd left it dark. The room was huge, filled with antique medical equipment, an iron lung, glass syringes with brutal needles, leather restraints everywhere, hanging like dead snakes. The whimpering had stopped. Then a voice came from the shadows. "Help? Oh, my dear, I was hoping you'd say that." A figure emerged wearing a vintage nurse's uniform, crisp and white. But the woman inside looked like a corpse. Paper-thin skin stretched over skull, eyes sunken deep, lips pulled back showing too many teeth. "You must be Sarah," the figure said, smiling impossibly wide. "I'm Evelyn Marsh. I've been waiting for you." Sarah's blood went cold. The woman glided closer with movements that seemed wrong, joints bending at strange angles. "Let me explain something beautiful. Pain is energy. Suffering is sustenance." Evelyn's skeletal hand reached out, and I learned how to feed. Sarah tried to back away, but the door had closed, locked. She was trapped in room 13 with this thing that wore a nurse's uniform, but was clearly something else entirely. Evelyn's fingers touched her cheek, impossibly cold. And then the pain began. It started as tingling, but grew fast. Within seconds, every nerve ending screamed. It felt like fire and ice simultaneously, like being flayed alive. But when Sarah looked down, there were no wounds, no marks. The pain existed somewhere deeper than physical. Evelyn had reached past her flesh, to touch her capacity to suffer itself. Evelyn's eyes rolled back as she fed, making sounds of deep satisfaction. As Sarah watched through tears of agony, the nurse's appearance changed. Parchment skin filled out slightly. Sunken eyes brightened. She was feeding, drawing something from Sarah's pain to fuel her existence. Fresh suffering, so much fear. It's been 3 weeks since the last one. The last one. There had been others. Other nurses who'd stumbled into room 13. What happened to them? Where were they now? Through the fog of pain, Sarah's mind seized on those words, trying to understand. Evelyn pulled her hand back, and the pain stopped abruptly. Sarah collapsed, gasping. Her body was unharmed, but felt destroyed. "You're wondering about the others," Evelyn said, settling onto the antique bed. "Most don't survive the first feeding. Their hearts give out or their minds break. Such a waste." She arranged her cape with precise movements, grotesquely normal. "But you're strong. You'll do well here." Sarah tried to speak, but her voice came out as a croak. "Why?" Evelyn's smile returned, that horrible parody of humanity. "I discovered the secret in 1945. So many wounded soldiers, so much suffering. One night I felt it, could feel pain like heat from fire. Something in me opened, and I took it in." She stood, began pacing with growing energy. The feeding had strengthened her. It was euphoric, not just the pain, but the life force it contained. I felt younger, vital, and the soldier got relief, just for a moment. He was grateful. Her eyes gleamed with memory. "I experimented after that, learned to control it, to take more." "You're insane," Sarah whispered. Evelyn laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "No, dear, I'm evolved, and St. Helena's has been my garden for 70 years. Sarah felt sick. "The hospital knows?" Evelyn's smile grew impossibly wider. "Who do you think sends me my meals?" The hospital administration knew. They'd been feeding her for decades. But why? What could they gain? Unless, "I see you understanding. Yes, I review all new hires. You were perfect, young, desperate for money, no close family to ask questions." She moved closer. "The hospital has the best pain management in the state. Patients come suffering and leave comfortable. I take their pain away, remove it entirely." "At the cost of people like me," Sarah said. Evelyn nodded, almost sympathetically. "Fewer than would suffer without me. It's simple mathematics. 1 or 2 nurses yearly versus hundreds of patients finding relief. From a utilitarian perspective, quite ethical." She reached out again. "Now let's continue. The second feeding is always worse." When Sarah regained consciousness, she lay on cold tiles. Time had passed. Minutes or hours, she couldn't tell. Every part of her ached with bone-deep exhaustion. Evelyn sat nearby, in a wheelchair, looking stronger now, more solid, almost human. Almost. "You're stronger than most," Evelyn said with something like approval. Sarah managed to sit up. Her scrubs were soaked with sweat. "If you're going to kill me, why explain everything?" Evelyn wheeled closer. "I don't want to kill you. Death is wasteful. I want you to understand, to accept, because you'll be back." Sarah spat. "Never." "Oh, but you will," Evelyn said knowingly. "You'll try to leave. But student loans, rent, no other hospital pays like St. Helena's. You'll rationalize it away as hallucination, and eventually you'll come back for another shift." Her ancient eyes held terrible certainty. "And when you do, you'll avoid this hallway at first, but eventually you'll have to walk past room 12. You'll see the door again when I'm hungry." Sarah realized with horror that Evelyn was describing a cycle, not just feeding once, but again and again, keeping her in perpetual terror, using her as a renewable resource. "How many?" Sarah asked. "How many nurses know what you are?" Evelyn smiled. 5 currently, 6 now, including you. They work different shifts. They've learned to accept their place here." "I want to see them." Sarah's voice was firm despite her fear. Evelyn considered this, tilting her head. That can be arranged. Meeting the others might help you understand, help you accept your purpose here. The overhead light flickered. Evelyn glanced at a clock Sarah hadn't noticed. 5:47 a.m. Dawn approaching. Time for you to go, Evelyn said. You'll feel weak for days. Tell them you have the flu. Rest, recover. And when you come back, we'll talk again. The door opened, revealing the normal hallway beyond. Ordinary fluorescent lights, mundane reality. Sarah didn't wait. She stumbled towards the door, legs shaking. Behind her, Evelyn called out one last time. Don't bother looking for room 13 on blueprints. The room shows itself only to those I allow. To everyone else,
The hallway ends at room 12. Sarah didn't look back. She heard the door close with a soft click. When she finally turned around, there was nothing. Just wall. The window over the parking lot. Fire extinguisher. Janitorial supplies door. Room 13 was gone, as if it never existed. Sarah called in sick for 3 days. She told her supervisor she had the flu, which wasn't entirely a lie. Her body felt ravaged. Every muscle ached. She couldn't sleep without nightmares of cold hands and impossible pain. On the 4th day, she requested a meeting with hospital administration. She had to quit, had to escape before being pulled back into Evelyn's web. The administrator was Margaret Holloway, silver-haired and grandmotherly with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. She listened patiently as Sarah stammered out her resignation, citing personal reasons. She didn't mention room 13. Even in bright office light, it seemed impossible, like fever dream. "I'm sorry you want to leave," Margaret said warmly. "Are you certain there's nothing we can do?" "I'm certain," Sarah said firmly. Margaret nodded slowly. "I understand. These first weeks can be overwhelming, especially night shift." She paused, studying Sarah's face with disturbing intensity. "Did something happen? Something that made you uncomfortable?" The question hung between them. Sarah felt tested, as if Margaret was waiting to see what she'd reveal. "No, nothing happened. I'm just not cut out for hospital work." Margaret smiled, without warmth reaching her eyes. "That's a shame, but I respect your decision. I'll process your resignation immediately. You're released from your contract as of today." She extended her hand. "If you change your mind, St. Helena's will always have a place for you." The relief lasted exactly 4 days. On the 5th day, Sarah's student loan payment came due. $43,000 in loans, 1,800 monthly payments. She'd counted on her St. Helena's salary. Without it, she applied to 6 other hospitals. 3 didn't respond. 2 offered positions at barely minimum wage. The 6th called back 3 days later saying they'd received a reference from St. Helena's and wouldn't move forward. Sarah called Margaret Holloway's office. The secretary said she was unavailable but would call back. She never did. By the 2nd week, Sarah's savings were nearly empty. Rent due in 5 days. She didn't have enough. She sat in her apartment, staring at her phone, trying to think of options. Move back with parents in California? They barely had room in their retirement condo. Borrow from friends? She had none who could loan $2,000. The phone rang. She answered without checking caller ID. "Hello, Sarah." Margaret Holloway's voice, warm and utterly terrifying. "I heard you've been trying to reach me. How have you been?" Sarah's hand tightened. "I need my job back." Pause. Then, "Of course, dear. Your position is still available. Night shift, 4th floor." The 4th floor. East wing. The hallway ending at room 12, or sometimes not ending there. "I don't want the East wing. I'm afraid that's where we need you most. Don't worry. You'll adjust. Everyone does, eventually." In the background, Sarah heard something, distant but unmistakable, screaming. Then it cut off abruptly, as if a door closed, or a feeding finished. "When can you start?" Margaret asked as if nothing happened. Sarah looked around her apartment. Bills stacked on the counter, eviction notice under her door that morning, empty refrigerator, overdue payment notifications on her laptop. She closed her eyes and saw Evelyn's smile, those skeletal fingers reaching for her face, that absolute pain. But she also saw her future without the job, homeless, bankrupt, failed. "Monday," Sarah whispered. "I can start Monday." Margaret's voice carried satisfaction. "Excellent. We'll see you then. And Sarah, welcome back to St. Helena's. Welcome home." The line went dead. Sarah sat in the silence of her apartment, knowing she'd just agreed to return to her nightmare, knowing she had no choice. The trap had closed around her, exactly as Evelyn predicted. She was going back to room 13, back to the pain, back to the hunger that waited in the walls of St. Helena's hospital. And this time, she knew exactly what was waiting for her. This time there would be no surprise, no shock. Just the terrible anticipation of what was coming. Just the knowledge that in 3 weeks, maybe less, she would walk past room 12 and see that door again. And she would have to go inside. Sarah's first shift back was Tuesday night. She'd asked for Monday, but Margaret called saying Tuesday was better. The 4th floor East Wing needed coverage Tuesday, specifically. Sarah knew what that meant. Evelyn was hungry. She arrived at 10:45 p.m. for the 11 p.m. shift. The hospital looked exactly as remembered, Gothic and imposing, swallowing streetlight into dark stone. Every instinct screamed at her to turn around, get in her car, drive away. But where would she go? What would she do? The trap had closed. Evelyn knew it would. Charge Nurse Patterson waited at the nurse's station. She was heavy-set, 50s, tired eyes and gray hair pulled back practically. She looked up as Sarah approached, and something flickered across her face. Recognition. Or sympathy. "Chen," Patterson said. "Good to have you back. Heard you weren't feeling well." Sarah forced a smile. "I'm better now." Patterson nodded slowly. "Glad to hear it. Full house tonight. Rooms 7 through 12 occupied. You'll take the East Wing." She handed Sarah a clipboard. Her hand trembled slightly. "Call me if you have any difficulties." Sarah took the clipboard. "What kind of difficulties?" Patterson's eyes met hers for a long moment. In that look, Sarah saw something she recognized. The look of someone who'd been through what she'd been through. Someone who knew about room 13. Someone who'd survived Evelyn and come back anyway. "Any kind," Patterson said quietly. "Any kind at all." The first 4 hours passed normally. Sarah checked vitals, administered medications, helped patients. Normal nursing work. Almost comforting in its mundanity. She could almost pretend her previous experience was hallucination, stress-induced break from reality. But at 3:17 a.m., walking past room 12, she saw it. The door. Brass number plate reading 13. There again, solid, and real, and waiting. Sarah stopped walking, heart hammering. She could turn around, go back to the nurse's station, tell Patterson she needed to leave right now. The door opened, just a crack. From inside came that sound, that whimpering, that broken, desperate crying that had drawn her in the first time. But this time Sarah knew better. This time she knew what waited inside. She turned away, started walking quickly back down the hallway. "Sarah?" Evelyn's voice drifted out through the cracked door. "Don't be rude, dear. It's been 2 weeks. I've been so patient, so hungry. Come inside. We need to talk." Sarah kept walking, faster now, almost running towards safety, towards people, towards anywhere but that door.
"Sarah, if you don't come here right now, I'll take someone else. Someone who doesn't know. Someone unprepared. Is that what you want? Some innocent person stumbling into this room experiencing what you experienced? Sarah stopped, turned slowly. Evelyn stood in the doorway now, visible in harsh fluorescent light. She looked terrible, gaunt and skeletal again, skin gray and papery. 2 weeks without feeding showed clearly. There's a new nurse starting next week, James Chen. No relation to you, I assume. He's 23, fresh from school, engaged to be married. Such a bright future. Her smile was predatory. Unless you'd like to spare him what's coming? Sarah's hands clenched into fists. You're lying. You can't just grab anyone. True, Evelyn admitted. But I can call them, make them hear things, see things, make them curious enough to open the door. It's easier with ones who don't know. They lack the fear to protect them, the caution. She tilted her head. You remember the first time. Do you want to inflict that on someone else? It was manipulation. Sarah knew it, but the thought of some innocent going through what she had experienced made her feel sick. If I come in, Sarah said slowly, you don't touch anyone else for a month. Evelyn's eyes gleamed. 2 weeks. Sarah stood firm. A month. Evelyn smiled that terrible smile. 3 weeks, and that's final. I need to feed, Sarah. I can't go longer without deteriorating. Sarah looked down the hallway. Patterson was out of sight around a corner, maybe knowing exactly what was happening, maybe choosing not to intervene, because this was how it worked, the bargain, the ecosystem. Fine, Sarah said. 3 weeks. She walked toward room 13, each step feeling like descent into hell. The door opened wider as she approached, darkness beyond seeming to reach out for her. Evelyn stepped back, making room, that skeletal smile never wavering. Good girl, she said softly. You're learning your place, learning to accept what you are now, what we all are. Sarah crossed the threshold into room 13. The door closed behind her with terrible finality. And in the cold darkness of that impossible room, surrounded by antique medical equipment and the smell of old suffering, Sarah Chen prepared herself for the feeding, for the pain that would come, for the price she would pay to protect someone she'd never met from experiencing what she was about to endure again. Evelyn's cold fingers touched her face. The pain began, and Sarah screamed into the darkness of room 13, knowing that this was only the beginning, knowing that 3 weeks from now, she'd be back here again. And 3 weeks after that, and 3 weeks after that, forever, or until something inside her broke completely, whichever came first.